Good morning, everybody. Today, I want to introduce you to a concept, the concept of an orgasm counter in relationships. So, if people would come to me and say, like, we have sexual issues, we want to work on our sexuality in a relationship. So, I would say it's like, cool, install an orgasm counter and see what happens. And talk about it. But you have to give one agreement that no matter what you do, you have to be honest. Like there's no point of running this experiment, this ritual, if it isn't based on radical and absolute truth. So by installing an orgasm counter and really have a calendar there on each day where you sign off. Did you masturbate? Did you ejaculate? Because then there come questions up. And say, on that day, I was really horny and you masturbated and we didn't have sex. It's like, okay, good. So this week you masturbated X amount of times and the other one didn't. So then you can divide that into self-responsibility. The one is doing it, the other one maybe isn't doing it that often. But it shows of how much pleasure is being put on both shoulders to carry. And if the man has it all and the woman very little, then what is to be done is to surrender some of that you take and hand it over to the other. That may take some time that the other person then adapts to it and finds a way to get and to accept it and to receive it in a way for herself and says, okay, that's my part. It's not that for you. It's like, oh, this is now waiting there and lying there for me to take it. Of course, I know all these stories as like maybe the one person doesn't need as much as that. But for me, what I have found out about sexuality is that most men are sexual ejaculation addicts. They're addicted to the chemical cocktail of oxytocins, of endorphins, of that release that is there, that releases anxiety, stress, and all sorts of stuff. And that addiction has to be counter-tackled because, in therapy, there's no therapy before the cold turkey, before you're off the substance, before you're off the behavior. There is no therapy possible. And the orgasm counter will show us very quickly. I mean, I see our world out there. It is so masculine. Have a look or write down in the comments. What is the ratio between male orgasms and female orgasms? We're 21st century. We have done a long, long way. We have come a long way. But you'll still see that the figure is huge in difference. It's not eye to eye. It's not equality for man and woman. Because, of course, there's an addictive behavior and we are leading more and more women into the addiction by telling them which not by have opened up the potential of the clitoris and of the G-spot. But they're all masculine orgasms. And this is a big problem because they're ultimately will separate. But for that, I'll speak to that about another story. Masculine orgasms, which are separating orgasms, and feminine orgasms, which are unifying or connecting and putting together and bonding orgasms. So this is what we have. Is like, speak about it. The orgasm counter is nothing to point the finger, but it's just to bring up the potential and invite conversation. It's conversation to sit down every so often, or just when you see another thing has been done, oh, you had an orgasm. How awesome. Wonderful. Next time, ask me if I'm allowed to watch. Or it's like, as I said, it's like, wow, you had an orgasm, and me? Why did I not were allowed to take part in it? And or how could I serve? Or next time I would help you, or would love to be part within that for you. Um, and then we learn more about that, and particularly we break down the shame barriers of secrecy, silence, and judgment around masturbation, around our behavior and addictions. And it's really, really important that we show up with our shadow, with our admittance, and saying, like, yeah, that's what I do. Like, I can say, it's like, as destructive porn can be, for example. But if you're completely authentic and transparent, and each time you have watched porn and you speak about it, or you leave the door open so that the other one can hear and see what's going on, perfect. I would say it's a healthy thing, and if it's also okay within the relationship. But it mostly happens in secrecy, in silence, and in judgment, judged by the other partner or by oneself that I do it. And then what you can do is, if you bring that orgasm counter more into balance, it doesn't have to be equal. If it's 5-10% different, or 15 or 20 even, it's no problem. But if we're looking around 80-20 or so, then you seriously have to ask yourself a question. Wow, is that eye to eye? Is that an equal, empowered relationship? And I don't accept any excuses that the man needs to do that more than the woman. Because in a relationship, what the man has in more, he needs to point at his woman, because she wants to feel loved and desired. So if the one is going and having his orgasms always through self-love or through masturbation practice, then the problem is that focused energy doesn't end up at her. And she will know intuitively something is going on. And then this is exactly what it is. It is more and more separating. She's stopping to trust you. Because there's always this kind of, he says he's loved me, but he doesn't give me the love. He doesn't give me the red zone kind of, he has pinpointed me, and his energy is tracing me everywhere, and he's like a bull seeing red. Like, he's really vitalized and he's really on the edge, and I'm the focal point of his being. And that will happen when that orgasm control comes back into balance. You empower the one who has less to have more, and you empower the one who has it all to give some of it up, so that it balances out. And that increases the connection within a relationship. And I only speak now in general terms, because this is really important. There are the individual activities that are happen for one or the other, and it's completely okay. But in the orgasm counter, over a longer period of time, like if you really make your crosses for each day, during the week, for a month, for a moon cycle, for example, then you clearly see where you're at. But again, the main thing is like, oh, I saw that you have made a cross today. How was it? Why did you do it? How come? How did you come? How come you didn't invite me? Or like with any kind of question that's coming up, but a question or a curiosity about understanding what happened is showing up, and therefore it invites in a conversation, and the conversation breaks the silence. And the silence breaks the secrecy around it. And the secrecy around it breaks the judgment sooner or later. It's honesty, it's authenticity. We all have our shadows, we all have our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities and our shortcomings. But intimacy is to state and make known, and that's why it's so important. State and make known. And the truth shall set you free, whatever you're holding back with. So that was my idea about the orgasm counter. And it's also only will work if you do it on a longer period of time, to invite conversation, to really bring up, okay, do you want to talk to me about it? What happened? Or I feel a little bit sad to have seen now again across, and we didn't have sex. So what is it? And whatever comes out of it, let go of the judgment of how tough the conversations is, that the conversation is in progress, that there is small increments of an increased amount of conversation. There's less silence, less secrecy, and therefore over time less judgment. And that's the path. And every journey starts with a single step. So do the step. And that was my motivation to show up and say, like, here you go, there's an orgasm counter. If you have the balls, put it in and count on the kitchen fridge. Orgasm counter. Him, her, and then on it, it's really important that you put it in daily, because the daily will ask questions. If you just have it hidden, oh, within the week I did 5 or I did 2, important is on what day it was, because that's also your relationship reference point. What happened there? Out of what reasons in the moon cycle? One is, maybe you see a pattern that in a certain moon phase, you need to relieve yourself. You have more energy that you need to get away, or anxiety comes up, or emotionality, or longing for that matter. And then it increases conversation and brings forward more authenticity and intimacy. And that intimacy connects again and creates more. But we want to find out what's really happening. And then relationships start to increase again, starting to gain vitality, starting to gain further attraction that they want to get into, to experience themselves within them both, within that relationship. And then it's all where it becomes interesting, when the unconditional love of that one comes in, and to really get to know, and on that basis making new decisions. Evaluating new again, but from a point of reality check, not from a theoretical or wishful thinking. To become authentic, to move into the present moment of time. To say what happens now, not what happened 5 years ago or 10 years ago. No, what is it now? And what do we do? What do we need to do now to have a benefit, to have a positive impact, to change things, to make them better? To feel more, to get closer. So that was my idea. And maybe try it out. And if you have tried it out for a while and so on, or if you need a referee, if you need a neutral person that communicates with you, because the communication can be difficult, because we don't want to point fingers. We just want to say and speak out of how we feel when we see this, what happens when the excess is too high. You have it all the time, because so many people come into a relationship coaching and are around whatever, mid-40s or 50s. And it's like, oh, we're not having any sex anymore. And then it's the question, why? And out of whatever reasons, then the question is why? Because the truth initially is not so easy to speak and formulate, because you think you heard the other one and so on. And then the man says, I didn't know that there was something wrong. For me, it always worked. So the orgasm counter will very quickly show that. And it's about balance, about equilibrium. So there is an opportunity to have a kind of, that's the reality check. And if you really have the balls to really point it out, to say, like, where are we in our relationship? Where am I in my sexuality? What can I do How can I empower her? So if you don't want to reduce your amount of orgasms, but what you maybe can do is you can empower her to have more. So then it equals itself out as well. You're bringing more vitality, more sexuality into your life. But how do you do it? Figure it out. To every problem, there is a solution. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the problem. So there's a creative way of spicing up your life a little bit, of bringing authenticity and communication to it, and particular to be intimate with each other, to state and make known what really happens on a daily basis over, let's say, at least a moon cycle. At least, if you want to push it, try it for a week. I know it will be painful for some, so do it for a week and maybe it's okay, but I would highly recommend a moon cycle to do it. And if you want, invite me into the conversations. I will be the referee. I will be the neutral person who is relaying what's going on in between them. And otherwise, get back to me personally if you want to speak about it.